Welcome to the Code, Deploy, Go Live podcast, episode 32. I'm Andrew Connell, and I'm here with my good friend, Julie Turner. If you want to watch this episode as a video, head over to our YouTube channel. You'll find the link in the show notes below the video. Today's episode, Julie and I are going to cover the recently released SharePoint Framework 1.23 version, which went generally available just this week. So that would have been Wednesday, May the 13th, 2026. We're going to talk about what's in it, discuss some roadmap stuff, what's next. This episode, we recorded it May 15th, 2026. Let's go. Good morning, Julie. How are you?
Good morning, Andrew. How are you? You're looking spiffy. Spiffy this morning.
I shaved. I have a collared shirt on.
Yeah. I don't even know who you are right now.
There's a little bit of that going on in the mirror as well. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Last I saw you, we were in, both of us, it felt like it was a really quick trip for both of us. We were in Cologne, Germany at the European Collaboration Summit, ECS. Both of us giving presentations. We had workshops. One of us had breakout sessions. I guess both of us had breakout sessions. One of us delivered them. The other one backed up the other one. So
yeah. Yes. It was fun.
How was your week?
It was fun times. My week was, it was really good. I love that conference. I absolutely love that conference. It's big. It's a big conference, like over 3,500 people. I'm not exactly sure of the exact count, but in that area. And it's just lots of great networking, lots of great hallway conversations, dev sessions packed, which is it just makes my little dev heart pitter patter with love to have so many people show up for a dev session. So I did a workshop, an all-day workshop. You did one too. I did one with Vesa Juvonen, Gary Trinder, and Paolo Pastore. And that was fun. We had a great time. And then I did a breakout session of my own. And then I did your breakout session. I did your breakout session first on SharePoint Framework tips and tricks. And that was really fun because little did you know that I doctored up your intro slide and gave you a nice mustache and crazy little eyebrows. It was fun and everybody laughed. And so then basically I presented your session here's what Andrew thinks and here's how I feel about what Andrew thinks. And that went over really, really well. Everybody laughed a lot. In general, I agreed with you completely, but then we got to the React slide. And of course I had to bring up the old beef that we have. But I also gave my perspective on it and I got some feedback after that they, even though they disagree with me, they totally appreciated my perspective on it. So it was fun. We had a great time. And then I did my own session and then I took a little mini vacation to Portugal. So that was wonderful.
How's Lisbon?
Oh my God, it was so fun.
Nice.
So fun. Traveling with my coworkers, Derek and Patrick Cash Peterson, and just seeing so many cool things and eating really great food. And then the last day we got together with another MVP, a Portugal MVP, Rodrigo, and we had lunch on the beach and it was fabulous. So a great 3-day extra trip, but got home with some serious jet lag. So I'm back.
That's awesome. I'm glad you had a good time. Yeah.
Well, you should probably tell the nice people why you rushed away and made me do your session. Yeah.
So I guess judging by the comments and the reactions I've had on LinkedIn, if this is news to you, I guess we're not connected because I was kind of surprised at the reaction I got. So this has been going on for about 2 months. But the skinny of it is that I have decided to shut down my business, Voitanos, and kind of stop doing the teaching and training stuff that I've been doing for essentially 20 years since I went independent back in 2007. And I was offered and accepted a position as a principal software engineer with AffPoint. So going back into the corporate world after 20 years. And it's one of those things that when it crossed my path, it wasn't something I was looking for. I wasn't looking for a way to an alternative to Voitanos. I mean, I doubled down on it. In fact, I spent multiple 5-figure investment over the last 2 years, including another in the last like few months, to kind of double down and go in a different direction of Voitanos with all my existing customers and to also expand to other things. But an opportunity presented itself, and I am one to not say I will no to anything.
Sure.
And I listened, and the more I listened to it, the more I was like, this is the challenge that I want. This is the thing that I want to do. I want to do in my career, and I haven't had an opportunity to do it. And I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. Came to terms with it. So, yeah. So I, ironically, like the night before I delivered my workshop at ECS, I signed my offer like 20 minutes before you and I had dinner.
Yes, right.
With a couple friends.
Yep.
And walked out. Did the workshop the next day. I could sense that this was happening. So the week before I reached out to you and to somebody else and was like, there's a good chance I'm going to have to leave ECS like really soon. And I need somebody to do my sessions. And I mean, for the one that you could do, you were perfect for it. You had actually sat in the same / similar session when I delivered it in Orlando a couple weeks prior. Actually, we talked about it heads up before that, so you knew what was going on. And but
special purview.
Yeah, yeah. So I had to leave. Ended up leaving Germany on Wednesday morning, the day after my workshop, and had to fly back to New Jersey. The team that I joined is like 50% remote, and a bunch of the teams we work with are outside of the U.S. So there was a workshop going on that week. And it was a really good opportunity for me to be able to get FaceTime and to meet the team and to get ramped up on what I'm going to be working on. So, so I rushed back to spend 2 days in the office on Thursday and Friday, and then went public with it on May 11th. So there's a lot more to it. We'll put a link in the show notes. We don't want to monopolize it for the show here, but yeah, it's a big change for me. It's a massive career change after 20 years, and one that I'm really excited for. And
well, I'm excited for you. I think it's an interesting, redirection, and sometimes these opportunities just don't, they don't just manifest all the time, and sometimes you just got to grab onto them with both hands and take the ride. And I think that's what you're doing, and I applaud you for making that switch, even though it's hard and maybe some people are not feeling so positive about it. Hey, your life, and I think you need to go in the direction that makes sense for you. So that's my view on it.
It's been, some of the reactions have been interesting. I've got some of the ones, I guess, some people I know are probably listening are my customers. I've had some people reach out and like, I can't believe I'm going to lose access to my courses here. What are you doing here? I demand this. I'm like, it's all covered in the stuff that I put out there. I told you what my intent was. So I will put 2 links in the show notes to where you can go read up more about this stuff if you're one of my customers, and make sure you read the whole thing, including all the way to the end. And one of the other links I put in there, there was a message just to customers, and an email was sent out. I explain it. But that's not probably why people tuned in today.
No. Probably not.
No.
All righty. Well, then maybe we should get into it.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about some Microsoft 365 Devy stuff that's happened in the last week or so? Okay. Julie, this week, Microsoft released the SharePoint Framework v1.23 release. There's another thing that happened this week too in the M365 dev world as well that we'll touch on a little bit, but I thought, why don't we talk about what's in this release and some kind of future-looking stuff that they've put in the roadmap that they have, kind of a little jazz handy wavy about, and maybe you and I can comment on some stuff that we've from this and some things we've seen at conferences, and kind of give a little bit of our flavor here.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yep, absolutely. Should we just go through the list one at a time?
Yeah, let's do that.
I have comments on pretty much all of it, so.
Well, why don't I ask you, why don't I go through, as I go through them, why don't you offer your 2 cents on it as we get through them? So the first one is This is this was out. We have links in the show notes. So if you subscribe to the newsletter, you'll get these in your email. And if not, look at the show notes. You'll find links in here. We have the roadmap announcement post, we have the 1.23 announcement post. We've got a couple other links in there too about a recent community call that they did. So 1.23, one of the first things they did is something called command set grouping support. You want to explain what that is?
Yeah. So essentially, one of the application customizers that you can build is a command set, which is essentially something that goes either on a list or library. It goes into the list of commands that's in the menu bar above the list or library, or it can show up in the quick links or quick launch for the item in the list. And essentially, it's triggered based on whether you don't select anything or you select one thing or you select multiple things, and you can sort of code it up how you want it to trigger. One of the things that was maybe a limitation before is that every time you added one of those command sets and they showed up in the toolbar at the top, there were one each, and so that it kept expanding the size of that list toolbar. And since Microsoft shuffles that toolbar around all the time, where your item would show up was a little bit willy-nilly unless you went the extra step, because there is the ability to do view formatting that allows you to change what buttons show up and what order they're in. And so that's handy. It's attached to the view, but you have a limitation there. If you had a lot of commands that you were building that were all sort of related, but not related but needed their own button, you didn't really have a way to group them together. And so what they've essentially added is the ability for you to say, okay, I have this command set group, and then you're going to have the main button and then whatever buttons underneath that. And you can even go down another level, up to 3 levels, I believe, in the grouping. So it's absolutely handy for those who are building out those command set extensions that want to be able to sort of group a set of functionality together in some way, and or just be like, hey, I'm an ISV and I've built a solution that sits on top of lists and libraries, and I just want all of my stuff to be under one button, right? So that it's obvious, like, ISV A, here's all the features and functionality that you're getting for whatever solution that you've installed from them. So I think it's a great thing. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, it's fairly simple to implement too. I mean, it's something you put in the manifest where you define a group and then you put the command in the group. It's all in the component manifest. So it's, when you look at the code snippet for it, pretty darn straightforward.
100%.
In fact, I wrote the article for it for the dev docs, and I was like, for the SharePoint Framework dev docs, and I showed it to Microsoft, and I'm like, there's not much here to really do. It's kind of like, do this and do this, and here's a screenshot of what it looks like. And it's like, here's a paragraph that kind of explains it, and I don't think there's much. So
I don't think we even need any text below the fold.
Pretty much not, right? It was pretty simple. So yeah, that one's pretty easy.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So the next one is it was about the tooling, and actually there are 3. And actually, now that I say this, I better double check on one thing. Yes, I was prepared. I swear to God. I'm just all of a sudden realizing that I probably should have double checked on something before we did this. But there are 2 or 3 things that are related, or I guess 4 things that are related to the dev tooling. So if we look in the roadmap screenshot, one of the things that they say is the open source SPFx solution templates to GitHub and a new open source SPFx CLI in preview for replacing the Yeoman generator. So
right.
I think these two things go together. And yeah, cool. So I was right. All right. So these 2 things go together. The idea is that they're going to move away from the Yeoman generator, and they're moving on to a SharePoint Framework specific CLI for creating projects. Yeoman's just long in the tooth. Most people have stopped. A lot of people have stopped using it. Actually, a lot of people have stopped using it and switched over to CLIs when the SharePoint Framework was just being released. So it's like great to catch up as everybody else is moving on. But regardless, I'll never forget that. That's what the Angular team was doing right when the SharePoint Framework was releasing. I'm like, are we doing the right thing? So, I mean, this is, I don't know. I don't think this is, to me, this is not a big deal.
Well, It's not a big deal, except my one concern, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but the CLI then goes and brings in the solution template that has JavaScript on it that executes to build out your code
structures,
workspace structure, the files, file and folder structure with whatever files and with content in them, right? So it builds that all out. That's JavaScript that's in an open source GitHub repository that you are expected to call and execute with a CLI. I need to see how tightly they put those solution that the solution temps could be open source is probably fine. I just want to see how it feels as far as a security perspective of like, how easy is it for somebody to override this code and put malicious JavaScript in that template? Like, I think that is going to concern some organizations. I mean, if it's locked down really tightly, maybe it's going to be okay. But I just feel like that is opening themselves up for a lot of negative feedback, where the Yeoman template is this, deployed, packaged solution. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's optics, not necessarily that something will necessarily be happening.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's funny because this is not this specific thing, but conceptually the exact same thing we're talking about has been like front and center on my plate this week with work, with the new job.
Oh, wow. Fascinating.
On the secure side of it, it's been very interesting. Anyway, the biggest difference I think we see here is that on the Yeoman side, like you said, it's still JavaScript. It's still an NPM package. It is still something that when you go install it locally on your machine, when you go to create a new project, it runs JavaScript to scaffold up the folders and the files to make up a new SharePoint Framework project or add components to it. The repo where that generator is not open source or even source open. They don't share that repo, so you can't get to the original source code, much less make submissions to it. We've been begging them to do it, but they haven't done it. The CLI is, my understanding, is essentially it follows the exact same setup. The exception to it is that the two things that are a little bit different about it is that, one, the repo is open so that you can see it, or it's public. I should say it's open.
Yeah, right.
They haven't said anything about their policy on accepting pull requests. So it could be source open, meaning that you can see it and it's public, but they won't take any community submissions to it. That's what I would prefer they do.
100%.
And so then it would work. That's basically the same thing as the Yeoman generator, with the exception of we can see the original source code. That's it.
Which I'm fine with. I love all of that. And from a security standpoint, I think that's okay.
Right. The thing that is different about it is that you can, through the command line, when you're using the CLI, you can point to a different repo that will pull your project template that you want to use, will pull that in, and the CLI will then build your project template using your template, not the ones that they have that are baked in. That's the potential security side that I think that companies are going to have a bigger issue with or a bigger concern with. It's like, it would be nice to be able to block. It would be nice to be able to block that ability for a company that wanted to lock it down, or if we just had two versions of it. Like the static site generator that you and I use, Hugo, for our stuff. It has a version that is both an extended version and a non-extended version. And the non-extended version one is a little more locked down. The extended one has additional stuff in it that allows you to make customizations.
Yep.
You have to install the extended one specifically to get certain things done.
Yes.
And I think that that approach is a little more, that approach might be a little bit better, or if there was a way that with the SharePoint Framework one that you had to do something to unlock, manually unlock it, was something like in a profile or a global place that only an administrator could do on your machine, or whatever, something, I don't know.
Yeah. I could see an organization wanting their own template and to lock it down to that too. Do you know what I mean? So I mean, I'm of two minds, right? I love the fact that this is going in this direction because I personally can't wait to be able to make my own template and be able to like use that instead. I think that is going to make things easier for me personally, because obviously I have my own set of ways that I want my SharePoint Framework solutions to be scaffolded, which do not work well with the way that the Yeoman generator creates them. So from that perspective, I'm thrilled. But I feel like a storm might be coming with the potential negatives of a bunch of people starting to open up a bunch of templates and bad stuff happening.
Yeah.
So
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. So that's big. That's only in preview though right now. It looked like it was going to be more like GA about this time. It looks like it probably won't be more GA until, at least on the roadmap, they say it's not going to be GA until 1.25, which today says September 2026, which usually means October, November 2026.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so you're probably not going to see this like a GA thing for a while, although I don't really think like the fact that it's preview, I don't really think that would concern you with like treating it preview or GA. Like it works. It works. You can use it today. I
tried it.
There's a little bit of
I don't know if I would say it works. I don't know if I say that.
Yeah.
You can build one brand new 1.22. Well, because that's what version was out. But when I tried it, I could build a brand new 1.22 solution. I could not extend a 1.22 solution, and I could not create anything but a 1.22 solution. So work is sure.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. So there's that one. There's some other little infrastructure stuff, like they say other technical updates for like ESLint updates. They did some patching related to NPM audit issues. And another big one was they have deprecated the online Workbench, the hosted Workbench.
Right.
It'll be retired in December of 20. Wow, that's earlier than I thought it was going to be. So I wrote as I'm reading the docs. It is deprecated today, and it will be fully retired as of December of this year of 2026, December 1st. So it'll go away, which means everybody's like, well, how am I supposed to do my development? You're supposed to use the debugging toolbar and work with real pages. So a lot of SharePoint developers have been doing their development this way, using real SharePoint pages for their development. We originally had the local Workbench. We've always had the hosted Workbench. The local Workbench went away 2-3 years ago. Mm-hmm. The hosted Workbench is also going away. There is actually, probably should grab the link to the repo. There is a community project /PMP project by let's see, Bo Cameron, I think Hugo and Chris Kent. Hugo Bernier and Chris Kent have done super cool that they've used. I will grab a link to the GitHub repo for that, where you can go take a look at that. But that's essentially bringing back the local Workbench. Yeah. So you don't have to like actually have a real SharePoint tenant to play with this stuff, to play with SharePoint Framework. It's not a supported thing for Microsoft. It is 100% a community thing. I think they're trying to make it a PMP thing.
And it is going to be a PMP thing. Yep.
Okay.
As of the conversation I had on Tuesday, that work is underway. Excuse me.
Okay.
The publishing of it.
Cool. All right. So I will find the link for that and put it in there. The other thing, though, that was part of this release that I'm curious to get your take on is the new and edit panel override support for lists and libraries. Yeah.
I've been... hallelujah. I have been wanting this and wanting this and wanting this forever. To pause on that, I just want to go back to the Workbench thing and say, I think when there was a conversation in GitHub because the Workbench or the debug query string parameter broke, there was a big conversation in GitHub about that. And I think it shocked a bunch of people to hear about dev builds. And so I just want to reiterate really quickly what a dev build is and what your options are with that, because that is how I've been doing development for almost since the beginning. Like pretty much like 1 year in, I started doing dev builds, and that's how I've been developing and testing. So essentially what it is if you're in the Gulp tool chain, you do gulp clean and gulp bundle and gulp package solution. And if you put the -- ship on the end of the bundle and the package solution commands, then it is a production deployment. If you leave the -- ship off, the manifest that gets generated in the SPPKG file points to localhost. And so then if you gulp serve your project and you've deployed the SPPKG into a tenant, then when you load those web parts, they load their code from localhost. So you're essentially able to change your code, it recompiles, and if you refresh the page, the web part is using your new code and you can debug that way. One of the extra powerful things is, especially in a production environment, is if you have a production version of a SharePoint Framework solution deployed into your tenant app catalog and you need to revise it in some way, it is a very straightforward task to create a new site collection and have the SharePoint admin deploy a site collection app catalog. If you then make a dev build of the exact same project with the exact same ID number and you put it in that site collection app catalog, it will override the tenant deployed one and run your code from localhost. So you can essentially run your code in the production environment using your local code to override that thing. I use that same philosophy by creating another site collection that I call QA, and I'll make a production build of V2 of the solution and put that in that site collection. And all my stakeholders, I can point at that QA site and say, hey, here's version 2, please go review, make sure everything is exactly what you want before we deploy it to production. And so it's sort of gatekeeping of our production deployment. Doesn't work with everything. If you're doing code that you want to manage, like provisioning of sites or whatever, granted, doesn't work as well. You need a dev tenant. But I just want to put that out there because there's 90%, I think, of the solutions being created. You could clone a site or clone enough of the SharePoint assets that you're using that you could do these types of dev pipelines and do a lot of the work that way. All right. Sorry. Moving back to the...
No, it's good. I appreciate you sharing all that.
Yeah. Moving back to the override panel, like, hallelujah, like, seriously, because we had form customizers, which we wanted, so we got form customizers, and then the Power Platform or Power Apps got to be able to be in the override panel for lists and libraries. So you could build a custom Power App form customizer and put it in the panel so that the user in context could have the same modern experience of editing or creating or viewing the data of a list item. And for SharePoint Framework, we were still relegated to the old classic ASPX pages, which just sucked. So this coming is long overdue, and I can't wait for it. And honestly, this is going to be so simple because it's just a manifest flag that you essentially say, I want to put it in the override panel, and then your form customizer will show up in that override panel. So, or the detail panel. So I'm excited about it.
That's good. It is. I mean, it's a good thing. It's nice that we finally got it. It's a little, it seems overdue, but whatever. We got it. So we're good. So, and you're saying that's coming in 1.20.
Oh, right. Yeah. So that's not out in 1.23. That's a good thing to bring up. 1.23.1 will release that. And the reason for that, and that should be within about a month, I would say. So we should have that by June, somewhere in the middle of June. Essentially, the reasoning for that is it's not that there's anything that the SharePoint Framework needs to do. It's that there's bits and bobs that are in SharePoint itself to support that need to go around the world and back again. And so that deployment of that code has been delayed, and it's finally in its rollout phase. So we should be starting to see that, and it'll be full GA by, we hope June. And so in that way, we'll release a 1.23.1, which will enable you to have the manifest change and be able to utilize that. It might be worth mentioning at this point that we sort of had we were doing the advisory that if you didn't care about the build toolchain, you really didn't have to upgrade from 1.21 to 1.22 and switch from the gulp to half build pipeline. And we're now entering a plane where you do. If you want command set grouping support, or if you want this new override panel, you're going to have to upgrade to the heft toolchain. And so that may be a lift for some people, depending on how you structure your solutions. And maybe this is a good time to mention our good friend Stefan Bauer has been finding a bunch of issues with the heft build toolchain. Obviously, they're going to be in the styling area because that's his forte. But worth mentioning that, and we're going to have a link, I think, in our show notes of all the issues that he's opened up. So if you are doing anything other than the most vanilla thing with your styling, your style sheets or your SCSS files, you're going to want to read his issues so you can keep up to date with the workarounds that he has shared and or issues he has brought up.
I'm putting a link in the show notes. I'm putting a link in the show notes to all of the issues. Depending on when you go see this, how do I do this? Depending on when you see or when you listen to the episode and when you go click on this link, you have the ability with GitHub to say, show me all the issues that somebody is the author of. I can remove if they're open or closed, just say all the issues. So you can see if the things he's reported have already been fixed and they're marked as closed or merged or whatever. But then they are also you can put a date filter on it. But
okay,
I know he's got more that he's aware of, but he hasn't posted them yet, and I don't want to put a relative date on it. So when you go look at the show notes and you see this, you're going to see it's everything that he's posted, and just think about stuff. I'll try to update this too if I can figure out how to do it. To where I can say that just look at everything that he's posted really since May of 2026, May 1st, 2026 going forward. I'll try to figure out that filter, but no
worries. I think people can figure it out.
My GitHub query string foo is sucking up right now. So
can't we get Claude to do that?
Oh my God, I totally should. I will do that. Yes, we most certainly can, and I'll get it to do it. Okay, so there's one more SharePoint Framework thing we want to talk about, and there's one other thing that I want to highlight as well. That's not SharePoint Framework related, and the rest of the roadmap talks about some future-looking stuff. So 1.24 and 1.25, and they refer to this thing called Feature X to public preview disclosed soon. Yeah. But what you and I have sat through some sessions, both at the Orlando Microsoft 365 Community Conference in early May. We've sat through some virtual sessions, like a call that Microsoft has held with the community as of a day or so ago from our recording. And you've sat through sessions at the European Collaboration Summit that was also in May in Germany, where Microsoft has alluded to some different things. Yeah. So we're going to let's just avoid the Feature X discussion. But there is something here that they're talking about, what is top of mind, a few topics top of mind for Copilot and AI related SharePoint Framework. There's one that I think is a lot of it's kind of hand wavy stuff. Sure. One of them, though, I think is quite interesting. That
me too.
We're not okay. So this is Julie and I talking. This is us putting dots together and thinking and just saying hey, they might be doing this, but wouldn't this be cool? And it's a little bit too I've presented on this, but not for the SharePoint Framework. And I got people asking about, is the SharePoint Framework going to do this? So if you look at a slide that Microsoft has shown, I think you said this was in even their community call on May 14th.
Yes, it was. Yep.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to this community call where you can go look and see what we're talking about. There's a slide that says few topics in top of mind - Copilot and AI, and in the middle section of the slide it says extend Copilot UI++, and the first bullet says, quote, SPFx-powered UX for Copilot build with the MCP app model but with automatic hosting for SPFx solutions. And this is what we want to talk about for a second, but again, if you just read that bullet point, you're probably like a dog who heard a weird sound, cocked their head what the hell was that? right? And flop their ears up.
That's valid. Yes.
So let me explain a little bit about what this is in terms of what I think they're talking about. But let me explain something that is fully supported today in Microsoft 365 Copilot, and something you can do with declarative agents that you create using the Agents Toolkit for VS Code. You can't do this with Copilot Studio right now, but Copilot supports it, and declarative agents support it as well, and it's also supported like in Claude and Perplexity and ChatGPT and everything. So,
and any custom engine agent you would build would also be supported, which is sort of what you said with Copilot. Copilot supports it. So if you build your own agent and you implement this, that's also supported.
Correct. Yeah. So Copilot Studio agents, you can't, which they refer to them as custom agents or custom engine agents. But when you say custom engine agents, what you and I say? Oh, yeah, those two teams, those two or three teams.
I just realized you're right. I just confused the whole thing. My bad.
No, it's okay. It's the semantics and the language at Microsoft between the teams that are building agents and agent extensibility. It's incredibly frustrating.
Well, they keep stealing the language that is general language. You can't take general language and make it your specific model. It's the team all over again, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's another thing too, is that when one team decides on the language they're going to use, the grammar they're going to use, another team's like, no, that's not what that is. We're going to call it this instead. Like,
yeah.
Somebody's mom needs to walk in the room and say, would you just figure this shit out? Right. But apparently nobody wants to do that at Microsoft. So this only applies to if you're building an agent and you're writing code, like pro developer, you're writing code to do this where you have full control over what's being returned back. Or if you're building a declarative agent using Agents Toolkit with VS Code. It does not apply if you're building an agent with Agent Builder, with SharePoint agents, or with Copilot Studio, at least today.
Right.
The engine that runs those things or that hosts them, which is Microsoft 365 Copilot, it does support this. So this is a tooling thing or extensibility thing. So what is this? So today you build an agent. We've heard enough how these are. I'm not going to go through and define what an agent is. One of the ways you can one of the things you can do with a custom agent is you can get data from an external system. And you do that by calling, oh my God, it's like, again, overloaded words, a plugin, an action, a tool, I'm not going to call it a skill because that's not really what it is. That's a real thing. That's not what this is.
That's different thing. Yeah.
So essentially, I'm calling a REST API. That's how we did it originally. After that, it was now you can call an MCP server. So Copilot acts as an MCP client that knows how to talk to an MCP server. An MCP, and we've talked about MCPs before on the show. And if not, if you just go to any search engine, say what is MCP, what is the client, what is the server, you'll find it there. We don't need to redefine it here. So there has been what we're talking about here, though, is that there has been an extension that has been it's been evolving a little bit with MCPs. OpenAI and ChatGPT, they came out with their own specification. Some other people in the community came up with a specification called MCP UI, and then the people behind the MCP specification, Anthropic, that they dedicated to the open source community, whatever. What they dedicated to this was they created something called an extension to the MCP spec called MCP apps. So 3 different specifications. The MCP apps one is seen as the one that's going to win. It's going to be adopted by everybody. The one that OpenAI has done is good for ChatGPT. Copilot supports it, but ChatGPT is primarily done for ChatGPT. And then the one that's the MCP UI, the original one, is getting absorbed into the MCP apps spec, or has been. So what is this? What this does is that if the client supports this, what it does is it calls a tool on the MCP server to go get something. When that tool responds, it says, here's what I can do. I can give you data. If you give me this, I can give you that. And here's the shape of that data. And one of the things that I can give you is a little widget, basically just HTML. I'll give you all the source of like what would be in an HTML file. I can give that back to you. And then what the client can do is it says, if I can support a UI, then I will not just go call the tool to go get data. I will call the tool. That tool gives me a URI that says, what is the resource that I want to get, which is something you make up. It's UI : / and then usually the name of the server / and then the name of the resource. Mm-hmm. So like the one that I did in my workshop at ECS and in Orlando, it's UI : / I should put a link to this with the video of this in the show notes.
That would be good.
So you put UI : / PTO - request for personal time off / PTO request form.html. Mm-hmm. So when the client says, I'm going to call this tool, the tool kicks back, says, I can give you this kind of data back if you give me this, and I can give you also a UI element. And if the client says, I can support a UI, I'm going to go call back to you, MCP server, to say, give me the resource, UI : PTO request / PTO request form.html. And what the server does is it returns back the source of that HTML file. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to give you a link or URL to it. It's going to give you the entire contents of it. And then the MCP client, in our case, Copilot, will create an iframe. It'll add it right in line in the chat, and it will load that source into the iframe, and it all runs inside of Copilot, so that now we can have essentially an app inside of our chat experience.
Right.
That could be, it's an HTML thing. So instead of just using an adaptive card, like the demo that I have, it uses React to build everything out and compile it. It's really cool because you can pass data into the component from the chat, and the component can write back to the chat experience. Right. So you can have like a two-way thing, and it's cool because you basically writing back to it's easy. You just basically send a message back to chat, and you just format the chat message in a way that your agent is looking for someone to say. Like for me, it was a PTO request and says PTO request details, and it has bullet points of like where are they going, when are they leaving, and where do they want to go, and how many PTO hours, and then the agent can parse that out, going, cool, now I know what you want to do. But the form gives them a more like way to
a nice way for the user. Yeah, the user can experience it. And I mean, it makes so much sense conceptually if you think about a minimized bundle of a React component, that bundle could be the thing that the app is pointing at, right? So you're like, hey, here's my bundle of a UX, and then that bundle is just loading into the iframe. And so it makes a ton of sense. That communication path obviously needs to be there so that it can communicate with the chat and get data from the chat. But that's changing the paradigm, like essentially.
Yeah.
In my mind.
What does it do? If I'm a developer and I want to build this out today, if I want to build this out, what that means is I have to go create the MCP server. I have to create the little HTML widget, and I have to create the MCP server that's going to understand to respond to the tool and respond with the resource. When you request the resource, go return the HTML. Now, why do we talk about this? What's the context of the SharePoint framework? So I had this question come up a lot. I would not be surprised if this is what Microsoft is working on, because it's a low-hanging fruit as far as I'm concerned with it.
Yeah.
Today, if you want to create a Teams tab in Teams, right? You can go with the native Teams approach, which is using the Teams SDK and building out your web app, and you then create your Teams manifest, and it tells it to create an iframe where the tab is, and here's the URL where the page you're going to go load. So same thing when you build an agent now, you have to build the MCP server. You tell your agent, let me connect it to this tool. Here's where you go call that MCP server, blah, blah, you do all the plumbing. But wouldn't it be cool if the web part, which is really just a component that's getting rendered in a div, instead, wouldn't it be cool if the SharePoint framework, like it does today with Teams, which is I create a web part, I say this works in Teams, and so what that packaging does is that now in Teams, when it says I want to go load, or I have an option of a tab that's a SharePoint framework thing, the URL of the iframe in Teams points to SharePoint Online, a single page that's got stuff on the query string that says go load this web part on the page and render it in a web part. So it's like, cool, I can use the same skills I've already done with the web part.
Yeah. That translates mentally for me so easily into an iframe in a Copilot chat. That's just crazy.
Exactly. So think the same thing.
Yeah.
But if the SharePoint framework team does it the way the Teams did it, then I don't have to deal with the MCP server. I don't have to deal with the MCP app piece to it. I just simply say, that's the SharePoint Framework web part that I want rendered inside this component.
100%.
And then SharePoint Framework does all the plumbing going, hey, we have an MCP server. We're going to handle all that plumbing. We're going to handle all the logic goes back and forth. All you've got to do is build your web part and check. Okay, I'm making this up, okay? But all you have to do is you just build your web part, and where it says supported hosts, you list out Copilot chat.
That would be so freaking cool.
Right?
Yeah.
It's simple.
It's so cool.
There's nothing for you to host. It doesn't.
Yeah.
When he says, when Microsoft says it's a SharePoint Framework powered UX for Copilot, build with the MCP app model, that's what I just described. But with automatic hosting for SharePoint Framework solutions, that's the same story we have with tabs for Teams and web parts.
This just makes sense. It makes so much sense.
Yeah. So
that would be really cool.
That's what I'm watching for. That's what I hope they do. We'll see if we actually get our wish, but
I don't know. We could be right. We could be wrong. Who knows?
Well, we're probably going to be right, but we'll see. So, do you have anything else you want to say about that? I kind of just went on a roll.
No. I think you nailed it. So
okay. So the only other thing I would say about this around the Copilot side really is nothing about this, but just to throw it out there, the another thing that they announced on the M365 Copilot extensibility story is the preview. My God, the long-awaited preview of evals for your agents, for declarative agents that you create with the Agents Toolkit. Yep. I've been begging for this forever. It was previewed at Ignite last November in 2025. I've been beating down the door on Microsoft, like going, come on, man, when are we going to get this? Come on, when are we going to get this? The concept is an eval is basically a unit test for your agent. So you have it run a prompt. You give it a description, the prompt that you have in your evaluation, in your eval. You also have a description of here's what I expect it to return back. And then it uses a language model to look at what you asked it, what the desired outcome was, and the outcome that you got back, and say, like, was it right or not? Because it's not going to be perfect, but it's like,
is it close enough? Yeah, with the percentage, basically.
Yeah. So these are big, especially when you have like Microsoft changing the models of like what Copilot uses, and we don't know when they do that, or we don't have control when they do that, and so all of a sudden our stuff could change, and like I got to make changes to my instructions, or they've changed the orchestrator. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly, but I feel like people expect AI to be way more deterministic than it is. And in the work that I have been doing over the last several months, especially around the Copilot APIs and early previews of the WorkIQ APIs, the problem is that it is not deterministic and it is not even close. And so these evaluation tools, I think, are going to expose how very undeterministic it is, and how much the orchestration / language model readily will ignore your instructions and then tell you it doesn't know why.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, I guess right now where I'm landing is I feel like the AI can be such a great tool, overloaded word, to call tools that are very deterministic. Like, I think that's where I would like to see us for now lean into AI, is around that ability to use natural language to get to very deterministic outcomes without having AI do the thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I do.
I don't want AI building its own code or figuring it. You know what I mean? I want it to say, oh, here's your set of tools of the things you can do. You can only use these tools. And here's what the tools do. But those tools are hand coded for the most part, you know, tools that are deterministic and that do very specific things. And I think that's where we get some power of scale in an enterprise environment. So that's all I'm going to say on it, because I could go deep on that subject. No,
I think I agree with everything you just said. I think it's a great way to sum it up. It's a space that, I mean, everything's still evolving with this stuff. It's still going way 100%. Too damn fast. Well, it's still going fast. We can't not too damn fast, because it is what it is. But yeah.
Well, I think it's too damn fast in the fact that people are pushing forward at a rate simply because they have to be first, not because they're moving at the right speed. And that, that speaks to a different thing, but we don't have to move as fast as we're moving. Like, it could happen at a slower pace where we make very thoughtful decisions about how we're moving forward with it. I don't know. Whatever.
I
get it. Nobody wants to hear what I think about that.
No, it's Microsoft. They have to be fast on the AI announcement cadence, because if they're not, they're falling behind, apparently.
But yeah, I don't blame them particularly. I blame society, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, this is bigger than one company. This is an arms race, essentially, and everybody is trying to win that arms race, and at the detriment to society, in my view. So
yeah, it's not, you're not too far off that. Okay.
All right.
Well, I think we said enough on the news, right?
We did it.
Okay. We got a few picks. Let's do our picks. I'm going to let you start and share picks with us first. I
will happily do that. Oh, there's the tab. You reorganized our notes and I could not find the picks tab. I'm like, it's here somewhere. It's here somewhere.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's totally fine. It's on me. All right. So my pick is, I don't know if you watched this, but during the pandemic, all of the late night show hosts started a podcast to support their, because they were paying their staff. And so they started a podcast to raise money to support their staff, paying their staff. And they called themselves Strike Force 5. And if you're not in the know, or you're, not in the United States potentially, Stephen Colbert has a late night show, and it was canceled. And his last episode is May, I believe, 21st. So he has 7 more episodes after the one he just did this other night. And this other night, he had all of those other late night hosts on his show. I have never, oh my friggin' God, I laughed so damn hard. And then they released a video version of their podcast for another 45 minutes. Jimmy Fallon, unable to organize anything, he does this thing with the wives, he asks the wives questions, and it's so confusing, and the amount of laughing that goes on. Anyway, it was the stories, the shenanigans, it's just joy personified. So those are my 2 picks, the Colbert episode and the Strike Force 5 episode, because it's just joy.
Yeah, these were really good. I hadn't seen either one of them. I knew that this happened. I hadn't seen it, so I'm really glad when I saw you post these. Oh, thank God! Now I have to go find it now, because this is it's right there. But yeah, I just love. I love what they're doing. I like the subtle, pushback on the reason why the show got canceled. I'll let everybody else can go do their own research on why that is.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just super fun. And God, I wish they would if they all get fired at some point, I hope they just do the Strike Force 5 podcast, because I feel like it could be one of the best podcasts out there. It was my joy during during the pandemic. So
yeah, that's good. It's really good. Awesome. Well, I have one pick here, and there was a concert.
You shared this with me. This was great.
So you have watched it?
Yeah, you sent it to me.
Yeah. So I remember sending it to you, but you didn't say anything about it. And I was like,
we didn't have time because we did that.
Yeah. So, and actually, you know what? I'm going to share the other one too. So there was a concert show. There was a show. I'll say there's an EDM artist named Fred again, and I'm sure, I would hope people are familiar with who Daft Punk is. They broke up years ago, but there's one of the 2 guys in Daft Punk is Thomas Bangalter, and Fred again did a tour recently, the USB 002 tour, and the last part of this tour was in Alexandra Place, which is now on my list. I've got to go to a show here in London at the end of February 2026. And it was Fred again and Thomas Bangalter doing a show that was just, it's EDM music. So if you don't like that, you're not going to like this. But just the energy that in that room. I've put this thing on play and just let it on repeat on a second screen. You can also find it. It's hard to find. I'll try and grab a link for it. It's on Apple Music to where you can have it download on your phone as well. And I will also put on that Fred again as part of this entire show or this entire tour. He took almost every single show he did on this tour, the USB 002 show. 2 weeks ago, he uploaded one giant 108-hour video that is just the audio from all these shows put together, with the exception of the Mexico City show, because they were recording some stuff that they're going to release later that was never to be seen yet. So they'll do that one later. But this one's great. Obviously, 108 hours. This one I don't even have to put on repeat.
Yeah. You just go. That's
so
awesome.
It was really good. I'll put both of those on there though. But yeah, these were they're really, really good. For me, it's fantastic work and focused music. So anyway,
nice.
Julie, It was fun again.
Yeah.
Glad we got to do this again.
Yeah, and we went long, as we always do.
We did.
Because
we went
we
a
can't
little
not.
long. I know. It's just we're not good at this stuff. Who knows? Whatever. At least I don't get paid to do this on a certain timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, we'd be screwed. We wouldn't get this job again anymore. Your estimates suck. I'm like, well, yeah, they still suck. So anyway. Okay. Julie, good to see you again.
Great to see you, Andrew. All right. Good luck.
Did you like this episode?
Bye, everybody.
Please like and share it with your friends. We're on YouTube, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn. You'll find all the links in the video description below. And if you have a question, head over to our site at codedeploygo.live, where you can send it in. Also, sign up for our mailing list on our site at codedeploygo.live to learn about future episodes, opportunities for listeners, and get the show notes from each episode sent straight to your inbox. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks.